Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Art 192, Photoshop/digital imaging for the fall semester of 2021. Today, we're going to be working on lesson 11, which covers using Photoshop or parts of Photoshop to edit video and to allow you to create a short video clip. I have never used this for anything more than the lessons. My guess is that if you wanted to create something for social media, TikTok, something like that, I think this would be a good tool for that, to create short little edited video clips. But for anything lengthy, like 15, 20 minutes, I'm not so sure most computers can handle it. But I can't say for certain because I've never done it with that. I've always used Final Cut or other programs that are designated specifically, Premiere, that are designated specifically for video editing. And this really is because Premiere is an Adobe product. This is sort of a pared down version of Premiere. So if you have the full access to Adobe products, you should have access to Premiere. And for a robust, larger than life kind of video production, then you would have access to that as well, since you'd have access to all of Adobe products. So let's go ahead and get started with the lesson. They provide all the content for us. So we just need to learn a few tips and tricks to be able to edit it and to put it all together. So as you can see, we have on the screen, this is the finished version that they provided for us as a Photoshop file. We also actually, if we look at this is the Photoshop file, but when you export it as an MP4 file, then all of these have been, these individual frames or clips have been stitched together along with the sound. You can import MP4 files. You can also import MP3 sound files and put it together. So to give you an idea what this sounds like and looks like, I'm going to go ahead and play it now. So let's go ahead and play. Here's a little playhead here. Here's the rewind, and here's the sound. I'm going to leave the sound on so you can hear it. So, oops, yeah, I don't want to listen to it again. Yeah, they provided for us both stills and a couple of video clips for us to put together into one cohesive project, along with some text that's animated as well. In order to be able to work with animation, to work with video in Photoshop, what you need to do is you need to go up to the upper right-hand corner. Remember where we specify different workspaces? You need to make sure that you have it set to motion, because when I turn motion off, come on, let's switch. Just go back to essentials. No, it's showing it anyway. So normally when we create a new one, I'm going to leave it on essentials for a minute to show you the gotcha here. Because along the bottom here, you can see that we have 3 different layers. The bottom layer is for sound. Then the next layer up is for our video clips and our still images. And then we have another layer above that for text. Also on our layers panel, this is where we have all of these elements stacked. The bottom ones are the ones at the bottom of our layers are the ones that are presented first, all the way to the last layer where it's presented at the very end. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, New, because that's what they want us to do, is start with a brand new file. And remember, at the top, we have some options here. We have recently used, we have saved, we have for standard photo sizes, standard print sizes, art and illustration, web sizes. We want film and video at the very end. And you'll see the one that we want is the second one over. It's the 1280 by 720 at 72 pixels per inch. That's kind of the good part about working with video, is that it is low resolution because it's only meant to be seen on the screen. When we're working with print, remember, for example, the last two projects that you've done, the movie poster and the postcard, need to be done at between 200 and 300 pixels per inch. This needs only to be 72 pixels per inch. But still, when you start stitching together video, multiple frames and adding transitions and sound and that sort of thing, it can really tax your computer's processor. So we're going to start with this template here. And so 1280 by 720, and it automatically sets it up at horizontal format, 72 pixels per inch with a white background. And I click Create. Okay. Now, what this is doing, because they've apparently changed the settings in Photoshop in the latest iteration of it, because since I specified that I want it to be for motion, or that I wanted it to be for motion, film and TV and that sort of thing, it knows to add the menu along the bottom, okay, our timeline. Before, it wouldn't do that. It wouldn't appear unless you specified that you want motion. Okay, and it does look a little bit different. But since we selected a template for film and video, it knew ahead of time we're going to create that. So what we want to do at the bottom, since we haven't done anything yet really other than set up our blank screen, and notice that it already includes safe regions for us. That's what the little blue lines stand for. That all I need to do is I want to create a video timeline down here. And you can see it starts with layer 0 and we have an audio track. So now what we want to do is we're going to take with layer 0, and I'm going to come in here, and what I want to do is I want to add media. And since they have prepared all the media for us, it's really quite easy. When I go in here, you'll notice that they've numbered them. When you look at the start file or the content for it, that they have it labeled numerically 1 through 6. Now, those are the files that we want. We want the JPEGs and we want the .mov files. So I'm going to select the first one of the family. Then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select the last one, version file 6, which is the sunset, which is the last image to load. And I'll just click Open. And it will automatically put them on the timeline when we're done. It's going through its motions here and it's adding the clips, converting colors. And in a few short seconds, we should have them all. And so you can see, I have the little twirly here that I can close, or I can open it up. And what this is going to allow us to do is to add keyframes to each of these clips. Now, we can't really see what's on these clips at this size. So what you need to do is we need to use this little slider at the bottom and to expand everything so that we can see a little better what we have going on here. We can also scrub through each of these now. You can see each of the stills and the movie clips. Now, because it gives you a default still image to start with, we don't need that. So I'm going to select it and hit the delete key. And notice that it automatically pushes everything forward in time so that it starts with these guys, the picture of the family. There's a couple of things that we need to do before we can really do any editing. One is that what they want us to do in this particular lesson is that they want all of the clips to be 3 seconds in length. And there is a non-destructive way of doing that here, that we can either shorten the video from the front or the back or both. And then you can stretch it back out if you wish to its full length. So what I can do now is I can click in here and I can drag, and you can see that by default, when you bring in a still image, it brings it in at 5 seconds. But as I move it, I can see that the end is at 3.08. And then I want the duration to be 3 seconds. So it's a good idea that we start by just changing that to 3 seconds. Okay, that's a little bit larger. That's still, if I click here, I should be able to see that. Don't slow down. Don't slow down. It's dragging right now. What can I say? There we go. No motion. That's good. I can click here and we can add motion if we want to here, but I don't need that. So I'm going to leave it. It's 3.01 seconds. For demonstration purposes, it's not that critical. And I'm going to do the same for the video now. That's much longer. Now, there's another way that we can change this as well. That when I stretch this down, we can see in the duration in the upper right-hand corner that, and it's probably too small for you to see, but when you do the lesson yourself, you'll be able to see pretty clearly. It is exactly 3 seconds. And when I get all of these cropped to 3 seconds, then I can stretch it out a little bit further and be able to see things a little bit better. Another way to do that with video, you can't do that with the stills, but with a video, is I can click in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll notice that we have video settings and we have sound settings. I want the video, and from right here, the duration says that it's a little over 11 seconds. Well, I can change that to 3 seconds. Oops, 3 seconds. And it automatically crops it. So that's another way. Let's go ahead and I'm going to do the same for the rest. I'm going to go ahead and make them all 3 seconds in length. Not that it has to be, exactly the same, but for the purposes of our lesson, that's what they want. We want it all to be the same length. So I'm going to shorten each one to 3 seconds. It'll just take me a minute here. And then I'm going to stretch it all out so I can see each clip a little bit better. And then there's a couple more things that we need to do with the stills. So let me stretch this out like so we can see everything a little bit better. But you'll notice if we look at the finished product here, this is the complete image of the family. Okay, and when we look at our version, when we've imported it, you'll see that they're considerably the image is considerably larger than the frame. So there's a workaround that we need to deal with to be able to shrink it to fit our screen. So what I'm going to do, you don't have to do that for the video itself. It automatically fits. But for still images, you do generally have to shrink it. So to do that, I'm going to click in the upper right-hand corner, this little arrow, and it should bring up different motion options, and that I want it to shrink or basically fit. So if I select here where it says currently no motion, and I say that I want it to be pan and zoom, and then where it says at the bottom, there's a little check mark, resize to fit canvas. That's what we want. Now, when I click off of it, you should see that now it's going through its motions. It should shrink to fit. resize it to fit. That's what I want. But what I do need to do is I need to go back and I need to take the pan and the zoom off. So it's sort of this awkward step that you have to take with each of these. So I have 2 video clips here that I don't need to worry about, but for the rest of these, I do need to take each one of them. And I need to come in here, and where it says no motion, I need to go to pan and zoom, make sure that the resize to fill canvas is selected. And if you want to see what that looks like, we just scrub this down to here. There we go. So that's resized. And again, I need to take off that motion. We are going to use that later, but it's good practice, I think, just to go back to none. And then as you come to that clip, go ahead and make the necessary changes. So I'm going to go to the next one and do the same thing. I'm going to come to here. And let's go ahead and resize. Yeah. I'm going to have to contact my cable company because it seems to be pretty consistent now that as soon as I log on and broadcast to all of you, everything really slows down. That's not good. Okay, and one more. Oops, wait a minute. Make sure that I take that off. Pan and zoom, no motion. Let's go to the last one. Yeah, everything, this should just take a nanosecond on your computer. But it's, for whatever reason, you know, my whole computer just kind of bogs down right now. And I don't have anything, I mean, I have the web opened, I have a couple of browsers, but I don't have anything else significantly working on here. Let's see how this looks. I don't like having all this dead air between talking and actually activating. So there we go there. Okay. So notice that they have, because pan and zoom has been added, that we have, we will add this back in here, but they have these little diamond shapes down here are called keyframes. I'll explain that in a minute. So when we come back up here, we're going to say no motion. And as soon as I do that, I click, they go away. Okay. So we've got all of our clips set at a duration of 3 seconds. We've taken all the still images and we've made sure that they fill the screen. And now what we can do is we can come in here and we can add another layer. And let's go ahead and put the text in here. So I'm going to scroll to the top here and in layers to make sure that we're at the very top. I'm going to close the video group 1. And then I'm going to go ahead over here and I'm going to say new video group. And that should add it to the top. And it does. So now we have video group 2. And now what I can do, and we want this to be set to 3 seconds as well, is I can work with a type tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Myriad Pro regular at 600 point. Make sure that it's white. And I can click anywhere on the screen. It really isn't important. And what I want to do is I'm going to type beach day, put caps lock on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and check it to fix it. And now what we want to do, because we're going back, it starts to the right and it motions to the left. What we want to do is we want it to create a, we're going to actually go backwards a little bit. In our process here. And I'm going to move this into position. Just use the move tool, just like we would with print. I'll move this down like so. Move it over. I'll just move it over like so. I'm going to twirl down. And what I wanted to do is now I want to establish a keyframe. Keyframes are terms that were used in animation. That's where they were started. And what it designates is when there's a change that takes place on the screen. So this is where the position of our beach day begins, and we want it to end over here. So that would be the end. Another keyframe is needed when it's moved over here. All the frames in between, which are now automatically generated with computer generated graphics, are called tweens or in-betweens. So if I click here, down here where it says transform, okay, you'll notice it adds a keyframe. Now what I can do is I can move this over. Not quite yet. I don't want to move it yet. I want to get this up like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the playhead to the very end. Now that it's moved to the very end, this is where what it will automatically do when I move the text over is it will automatically create a keyframe. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and make sure that it just moves over horizontally and doesn't change at any angle. And this should be like so. And you can see that it automatically created a second keyframe. So now when I play across, I just scrub across here. We can see that the text scrolls across. Now what I can do is I can take that entire layer and we can change the opacity of it. We can scrub back. Let's make this maybe 40%. That ought to be pretty good. Now let's go ahead and go back. And now you can see, just as if we were working with print, we have created an edited text. It lies on its own layer. Not too shabby. And we've created, in just a couple of seconds, some nice smooth motion for it to go from stage right to stage left in a matter of 3 seconds, okay? If I wanted to stretch that out, I could. If I wanted to shorten it, I could. 3 seconds is a good duration though. So now what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this up a little bit. And we're going to take each one of these. We've already fixed the family here. The boat doesn't need anything done to it. But what we're going to do now with the dog on the beach is we're going to apply to this. Okay, let me go ahead and close this guy up. Oh, come on. Close that up. There we go. Select this. Let's go ahead and open this up. And you need to make sure that when you are working on a clip, that it is selected and that the playhead is over it. So what we're going to do with this now is we're going to apply to the whole thing. We're going to go to and apply Hue saturation layer. So we're going to take the whole layer and we're going to, let me see here. I want it to be, oh, never mind. That's not what I wanted. I wanted black and white, and we're going to add a tint to it. There we go. So notice that I added Hue saturation down here. I need to remove that. There we go. So we added black and white, and now we're going to add a tint to it. So we can do that automatically. Let's go ahead here. Let's select it. And let's go ahead and select the altered video. I want the style. You know what? Let me take it away again. Make sure that is done. Let's go back up here. Do I still have use? I don't want you. Oh, no wonder. I thought I'd thrown that away. There we go. So let's select here. So let's add the tint, make it look kind of an amber color. And you can see that it affects when I scrub across. It affects the whole layer quite nicely, just as if we were working in print. So all of the effects that you can add, the layer effects that you can add in print, you can add to video clips. It's really kind of nice. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to add where we have the 4 dogs here. We're going to scrub across. And in this particular instance, we are going to put back in here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this back up. Make sure that this clip is the one that's selected, and you see the sub layers down here. And I'm going to click up here, and where it says no motion, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use pan and zoom. Okay, so we'll leave it pan and zoom and just click off of it. And you can see that it automatically added the keyframes at the beginning and the end. And so when I scrub across it, notice that it moves it across the screen, and it also zooms in a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to close that one up, that group up. We're going to select the jumping guy now. We're going to do something similar to what we did with the text. So I'm going to go ahead and scrub down with here, make sure that we see him. And now what we're going to do is we're going to apply a transform again to this. We've got our keyframe, and this time I want to move him down, maybe to here. And then I'm going to scrub all the way to the end, like so. And now I want to move it up. And as soon as I move him up, an automatic keyframe will be added. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Shift key so it constrains the movement. Oh, just right about there. That ought to be good. Now when we scrub through it, we can see that it starts down here and it moves it up in time. And we have one more to do. So again, let's close this. Let's select the next little segment here. Let's open it back up, that group. Make sure that the little editing modes for the transform, opacity, and style are selected under here. So if we wanted to affect opacity over time, which we did not with our title, but if you wanted to do that, we could do that as well. If you wanted to have a style that you've applied and change it over time, maybe make a drop shadow increase or decrease in size, maybe change an angle or something, you can do that as well. So what we're going to do here is similar to what we did for the 4 dogs. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add. It says no motion, but we're going to add pan and zoom. Should add both of those. And now when we scrub across, you'll see that it scrubs across and it zooms in a little bit. Just a little, not a whole lot. Changes in the end. So we've got that part done. So there's a little bit more that we want to do to this thing. It hasn't taken us very long at all. Maybe a half an hour. If you're doing this on your own, it'd probably take less. We added some text and animated it on its own layer. We changed its opacity over time so that for the first 3 seconds, it remains on screen and it's like 40% opaque. We have modified each of the clips so that they are 3 seconds in length. We have added some effects to each of these layers, each of these clips, I should say. Now, the next thing is that if I scrub through this, probably what you'll see is that they abruptly change from one clip to another. They're jump cuts. And we want something that's a transition that's a little bit nicer. And they don't have many transitions in here, but the one that we do want to use, and the transitions are found right here, is that we want to use a crossfade. So if I select the crossfade, I click and I drag it in between the two clips, it will automatically add it. If I right click on it, it will tell me that it's 1 second. I think we want it to be 0.23 seconds. Okay, so a really short transition between the two. But as I scrub across that, you can see that as the family fades out, the boat video fades in. So we can do that for each one of these. And all we have to do is click on the different transitions, and we will be using some of the others. We're going to fade to black. Okay, and we can also fade the sound over time. There's a whole variety of things we can do. We can fade to white, and you can fade with a color. But that's pretty much it. The crossfade is, I think, a good one to use. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag this one in. And again, I'm going to right click on it. And instead of 1 second, I want it to be 0.23 seconds. And I'm going to do the same with the next one. I'm going to come across and I'm going to click on you just drag the transition in between the clips and it automatically adds it. To leave it at 1 second might be a bit too long. The scene barely plays and it's over with. So let me go to one more and we'll be good to go. So I'm going to go use a crossfade again for the next one, pull it over. Oh, I forgot one here. So let me right here, 0.23 seconds. And one more. I slipped up. One missing here. Right in between these two. There we go. And right click. And I'm going to put in here. Come on. There we go. 0.23 seconds. Okay, so now when we scrub through here, you can see that rather than an abrupt transition or change from one frame to another, there's a nice smooth cross transition. It's subtle, but I think it will make a pronounced difference in here. Now, the next step in here, since we're doing this pretty well, is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add an audio track. And they've already done that for us. They've provided the sound. So what I want to do is I want to click here and I'm going to add audio. And if we go back to the folder that they provided for us, you'll see that we have an MP3 file. This is the one that they want us to bring in here. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And notice that the clip of the sound extends way beyond the length of our video. So what we need to do is we need to we're going to cut it off right at the very end of our video. So to cut it off, otherwise, when you render the video, it will keep playing. It will fade to black, but it will keep playing the song until it ends. We want the song and the video to end at the same time. So what I want to do is if I put the playhead right over the end here, and I use this little pair of scissors, notice that it cut the beach song right there at that point. So now the video and the music will end at the same time. Two more things that we need to do, and actually three, and then we're pretty much done. I'm going to select the part of the sound that we don't need. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add fades to each of these. I'm going to click here, and you can see that we can fade in, and I'm going to fade in and fade out. So let's fade in at maybe 2 seconds. I'll just type it in. I don't remember, to be quite honest, what the book wants. And I'm going to fade out at maybe 2 seconds. I could probably fade out at 3 seconds. It's a little bit longer. Okay. Now we should see when we twirl down here. There we go. Let's click down here. And we see that we have the audio. And if we want to play it, we can. But there's one more thing that I need to do. I want the end here. Right at the end, I want this to fade to black. And I'm going to fade black over just a couple of second or two here. So I'm going to select here, fade with black, and I'm going to drag this over the very end. And I'm going to leave that just the default 1 second. There we go. So now we've taken some stills, a couple of video clips. We've edited them to so that they're all the same length. We've added some text. We've added sound. We've also cut the sound. We've added some fades so that the music will fade in and fade out. We're also added transitions. And now we're pretty much set to go. We can go ahead and we'll play this, see how it sounds. And then we're ready to save our file. It's a Photoshop file, but when you save it as a Photoshop file, that's not what you can use for video to incorporate or to save it on a DVD, for example, or to upload it to YouTube or anything. They have to be MP4 files. So the very last step, once we save it as a Photoshop file, is that we can export this as an MP4 file. That's what we're going to do, and then we'll be all done for the day. Okay, doke. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this. I'll just save it as a working file. Save it on my computer. And then I'm going to play it through once. See that how it looks, how it sounds. And if all is good, then I'll go ahead and export it. Now, cancel. I already have a working file. So I'm going to call it lesson 11_2 working file. Okay, so let's go ahead and play. See how this works. A little herky-jerky, but you get the idea. Now, there's one more thing that we do need to change. You'll notice that each of the video clips has sound linked to it. Now, you can either leave the sound in and change the volume, or you can cut it out. I want to cut the sound out for each of these. So what I do is I click on upper right-hand corner of each of the clips. And instead of editing the video, I edit the sound. And you can see that we can mute the audio You can have it fade in or fade out for each of these clips. You can adjust the volume. We want to mute the audio altogether. Okay, so let's go to head to the next one. Since we only have 2 video clips, I'll select the sound and I mute the audio for it. And again, these are non-destructive, which is really kind of nice. So let me play it through one more time. And I don't know if you noticed the sound of the boat. It was pretty pronounced when I played it through. The one for the dogs at the beach didn't have much at all. There we go. It all looks pretty good. It's came together pretty well. Not too many mistakes. So now I'm ready to export. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to File. Let me make sure that I have saved all changes. So Command S. And I'm going to go to File. And I want to export. Export. And I want to export it as, at the bottom, I want to render the video. So it's initiating the video export. A little dialog box pops up. And what we're going to do is if you want to create a subfolder for it, you can. We can also, I'm just going to leave the title of it, Lesson 11, version 2, working file MP4. If you want to rename it, you can. We're going to leave the format at H.264. That's a standard. We can go with high quality. Document size, we can go with also 1280 by 720. That was what we wanted. Document frame rate, 29.97. So that's generally for, even though video is standard is 30 frames per second, to make sure that the sound is synced with the images for television, it needs to be 29.97, and they know to do that automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing. If you wanted to, right now we're going to do a range of all frames, but if you had a fairly long video and you only wanted to export 10 seconds of it or a few seconds of it, you could specify where the start frame and the end frame are. And then it would, create these little short video clips for yourself if you wanted to. But I'm just going to do the whole thing. So I'll go ahead and I'll click render. And it should save it where the Photoshop file is, and then we're all good. It'll take a few minutes. So while I'm waiting for it to finish the rendering process, are there any questions that you have for me today? Anything regarding, I will this weekend probably grade the movie posters. I've already received a couple of them and I have graded them, but I expect to receive a bunch more. So I'll get them graded by the end of the week. Everybody should now get started on your digital painting. And if you have questions about that, please let me know. There are lots of examples on my Pinterest page. And this Wednesday, I'll probably talk about that just a little bit more. And I can review some of this a little bit more, but that will be it for this week. We're running to near the end of our lessons, and we still have many, many weeks left in the semester. There will be some videos that I will be showing. Probably what I'll do on Wednesday is I will show additional videos on digitizing, creating a digitized painting using Photoshop. In addition to that, I want to show you again more examples of digital paintings that were done in Photoshop. And then that will be it. And then for the final assignment after this will be due in about 3.5 weeks, the digital painting. And for your final assignment, it will be to retouch, restore a damaged photograph to its original condition or better. And what I will be doing is I will be showing some videos on various different techniques of restoring and retouching photographs. We've already covered many already, but it doesn't hurt to see what approach different digital artists take when they're doing it, when they're retouching and restoring images, and you can watch them step by step and see how they've approached taking a photograph and improving it and making it as good, if not better, than the original. So this is still exporting. So I'm pretty much done for today. I'm going to go ahead and this will be, again, the same as the first one that I showed you. So there's no point in waiting on this. And we've run up close to our hour. So I'm going to call it a day and let all you guys go. Okay. I've got Renee here. Anybody else? Does anybody have any questions before I end my video? This will be up on YouTube within the hour. Okay. Know that the movie poster is due. It was today, and you should get started right away on the digital painting. And that's pretty much it. No questions? Okie doke. I will see you later. I'm going to pause the recording. And that's it for today. Okay. Bye-bye.